and let us all do we can to build a better future.
New York governor and unrepentant sex pest, Andrew Cuomo, is back in the news. This came to us today from, I think this was the New York Times, as far as the complaint. I mean, I'm going to get to what Daily Beast reported on, but Cuomo aide who says he groped her files criminal complaint in Albany. The complaint from the woman, an executive assistant whose name has not been publicized, increases the possibility that Governor Andrew Cuomo could face criminal charges. And this comes from Jonah E. Bromwich and Luis Ferrer Sardurni. A woman who accused Governor Andrew M. Cuomo of groping her breast in the executive mansion last year has filed a criminal complaint with the Albany County Sheriff's Department, the sheriff's office said on Friday. The criminal complaint from the woman, an executive assistant whose name has not been publicized, increases the possibility that the governor could face criminal charges related to his behavior. You know, I'm glad this is finally happening, but I'm waiting for criminal charges being pressed against him for all the nursing home deaths that he covered up while he was using resources while he was in office to write that book and get his what was it, an Emmy for
so the nursing home, he was the one that made it so that nursing homes could not close their doors when the pandemic happened. They had to admit everyone, and once they were admitted, he then gave liability protection to all of the executives in these nursing homes from lawsuits for doing that very thing, and then in turn they turned around and donated handsomely to his campaign, and 15,000 people died.
And then he did all those fireside chats, of which he was then nominated for an Emmy, because he's just such a hero of the people. Legal experts have said that his conduct toward the assistant, as described in a 165-page report released by the New York State's Attorney General's office this week, could be charged as forcible touching, a misdemeanor. Mr. Cuomo, a third-term Democrat, has repeatedly denied over inappropriately touching the woman or any of the others who have accused him of sexual misconduct. On Thursday, he said he would cooperate with the State Assembly's request for information as it concludes its investigation into his conduct and prepares to draft articles of impeachment against him, which can't come soon enough. I mean, look, the sexual harassment, the predatory sexual misconduct is bad, but again, you know, along with the nursing home deaths, this guy's got a litany of things that he should be thrown out of office for.
Slave labor, making hand sanitizer.
That's right. You guys covered that story also? So after reading this news today, I came across a fantastic editorial from Daily Beast. And this editorial was penned by Erin Gloria Ryan. And I love the title. And I think that probably, unfortunately, too many of us have seen or witnessed this kind of behavior. But I want to quote from some of Miss Gloria Ryan's editorial because I think that it's really pretty hard-hitting, and I enjoyed it, and I think that it pretty much states things for what they are. The horny mentor's power hinges on the belief that his stature will protect him from scrutiny. Perhaps that's how Cuomo managed to release a statement blaming his accusers. I'm sure whatever comms people helped craft the position statement of Governor Cuomo thought that they had put out a slam dunk. The statement contains a logical explanation or feasible-sounding excuse for every one of the encounters detailed in Attorney General Letitia James's report. Governor Cuomo is not a dirty old man under a pound of TV makeup more interested in playing an effective politician on TV than being one in real life. Andrew Cuomo is a father figure to everybody who's ever worked for him, and those who are made uncomfortable by his behavior simply don't know how to have dads. Jesus Christ. His accusers are power hungry, crazy, unstable liars, and all this makes Andrew Cuomo, who again was just trying to be a dad, very sad. Just to drive this point home, the governor's statement includes several pages of JPEGs of him hugging people. And then he was also comparing pictures of him hugging people with Obama hugging people after a hurricane, as if that, trying to console people, not abusing his position to physically do whatever he wants, touching people.
Was so funny because he was literally like, hey, I know like most of the charges for each thing, and most of the charges against me are me like, oh, like running my finger along a woman's breast, but like, I'm going to pretend that didn't happen. I'm just going to be like, look at me. I'm just, this is all that it's about. Nothing more, nothing less. I know. I've always done this. What's it?
I'm Italian. We're all like that. We're very touchy-feely. But under the lightest of scrutiny, Cuomo's response is a masterclass in gaslighting and deny, attack, and reverse victim and offender, the acronym being DARVO, a common tactic of abusers that anybody who has gone to therapy or spent time on mental health TikTok can spot from a mile away. In his statement, the governor implies that former staffer Lindsay Boylan only accused him of harassment to get attention for herself and a boost for her nascent political career. He alludes to knowing deeply personal stories about two other accusers, both of whom confided in him in a way that almost reads as threatening. Kind of reminds me of Anna's email to Jimmy. Interesting. Both genders play that game.
It's amazing how humans have only a really couple ways of acting in certain situations.
Nice little secrets you got there. It'd be a shame if somebody told a newspaper about them. He implied that one accuser couldn't possibly have been harassed because on the same day she was allegedly harassed, she sent a text about enjoying cheese. Everybody knows that on days that women are harassed, we are too distraught even to consider cheese. Cuomo wants us to believe that 11 women, for totally disparate reasons, conspired somehow to smear him rather than the simpler explanation, which is that his behavior was unacceptable at best and illegal at worst. He also tries to get away with shitty behavior by giving it a cutesy rebrand. In Cuomo's statement, sexually inappropriate questions are now quote-unquote banter. Wildly inappropriate comments are jokes that contribute to office camaraderie. Cuomo points out that he employs a number of women at high-level positions, which I guess is supposed to be evidence that he couldn't possibly be a serial sexual harasser. But if there are truly that many women in Cuomo's inner circle, and they are all the girl bosses he claims they are, it's puzzling that a statement this tone-deaf ever saw the light of day. Maybe he believes that palling around with his lawyer from times up inoculates him from the consequences of his actions. I'm not sure that anything would save his reputation at this point, but the smallest amount of contrition couldn't hurt. I'm going to jump forward in the article.
Okay.
Once I'd made my way through Cuomo's self-pitying denial of the accusations, I knew exactly who we were dealing with. It's an archetype I suspect many women recognize, that some men probably recognize if they've been the unfortunate recipient of unwanted attention from this particular strain of sex pest, the horny mentor. The horny mentor is closely related to the reviled nice guy, except older, more powerful, and with a higher credit limit. Both gaslight the attractive women, and less commonly men, they target by claiming that they're only trying to add value to their lives when in fact they are in fact in it for the sex. Nice guys hide their sexual motives behind false platonic friendship that transforms into rage when the woman he's spent all his time being friends with won't reward his kindness with sexual favors at a bare minimum. Horny mentors hide behind false paternalism and mentorship that transform into rage when his target isn't grateful enough to sleep with him or at least indulge him in exchange for special attention from the sexually inappropriate office dad she didn't ask for. A horny mentor will dangle his power before his target in an attempt to impress her, and then, when the target is not willing to behave in the way he wants her to behave in exchange for access, he will accuse her of using him. It's a little like a man who uses flashy displays of material wealth to attract women complaining about women being interested in his material wealth. The horny mentor's power, like the power of other abusers, hinges on the belief that his stature will protect him from scrutiny. Anybody who speaks out against him won't be believed because they don't matter. Perhaps that's where Cuomo found the audacity to release a statement blaming and attacking his alleged victims. He's so committed to the belief system that enabled him for years, despite all the evidence against him, despite all the calls for his resignation. He still thinks he'll get away with it if he holds on for long enough. Bill Cosby, Harvey Weinstein, Andrew Cuomo. This is the pattern of men in high positions of power that routinely engage in this kind of sexual harassment and abuse and then think their power and authority is going to get them off the hook. I just thought that Aaron Gloria Ryan's editorial on this, which I just shared with you guys, pretty much called it for what it is. And I've seen this in so many different areas of business, whether it's entertainment here in Chicago. I recall witnessing one writer doing this with actresses he would cast for his projects. You know, it was to further their careers, but he always had his eye on them. Whether you see this in government, whether you see it in all areas of business, it makes me ashamed of our gender, quite frankly. I mean, look, we're not all this way, but so often those that are abusive this way demonstrate why there's just got to be zero tolerance for it. There should have been zero tolerance for it decades, eons ago. But because we let this cycle happen for so long, it seems like only now, maybe with the emergence of social media and people being brave enough and able to finally share their stories, is why we're seeing more of it out in the open now.
Yeah, I think so. A couple things. I remember that one part where he was like, "Hey, I can't be abusive or misogynist towards women. I hire a lot of women and put them in high up positions." That's like the same thing as like some pedo going, I can't be a pedo. I work in a daycare. It's like, what are you doing? You
That's
know
why
you
they
fit-
work in the daycare.
Exactly. That's why he's hired all these women. But it's also the other thing that it reminds me of is I forget who it was that got me. It's like the nice guy kind of routine that he's like the elevated, upgraded nice guy.
Yep.
It's like, hey, I just have to put enough quarters in the slot, out'll come sex. Like that's the mentality that he has on all these things. And then again, then to go through all this and do all this to so many women, to then deny that they barely exist, think that they're never going to come after you, and then when they do, and the entire state is now turning against him, and they're thinking of impeaching him if he doesn't step down. He puts out a video going, I just hug and kiss people. It's what I do. It's like, that's not what people are accusing you of. If that was the case, it would have been happening a lot. And then the other thing on top of all this is a pattern of behavior that in America has been acceptable for so many years. And he grew up in this. You know, if there's anything he's right about, his dad went through this, taught it to him, and now he's doing it. Another thing to bring up that I always think is a kind of an ironic, funny note on all these is, isn't it interesting?
I have a feeling I know where you're going with this.
When Trump was president, how everything that he did with women was rightfully called out, even if some things maybe were, we'll see,
Questionable.
But when they're looking, then we need someone to show that Democrats are different from Trump. They pick the same person. They pick a New Yorker who sexually assaults women and can't shut up, has a giant ego, and is liked by a certain cult of people. They picked the same person. The one another reminder through this story that both parties are effectively the same in how they operate. This is it. They picked the same person to show. No, I had a meme on this that when it was Biden versus Trump. It's like, no, your guy raped more people. That's the stance that everyone's taking. Meanwhile, there are women that are suffering, dealing with this person, dealing with way more people across the country, who only under very specific circumstances where all of them basically have to come forward at first. They have to be high-ranking enough to get media attention, and then they have to get convince some prominent newspaper or something to even investigate the story. Then they have to show an enormous amount of proof, and only then can it even get to the level we're at now where we're able to talk about it. Meanwhile, if you watched Hard Lens's coverage for many months, it seemed like the archetype.
Well, this cult of personality that would protect Trump's indiscretions as well as Cuomo's indiscretions is the same cult of personality that, isn't it ironic? Joe Biden was asked the other day what he thought about what's happening in New York with Cuomo, and Biden said, well, he should probably resign and he should probably face charges if they're filed against him. And this is the same president who denied Tara Reade's allegations against him. Yeah. And the cult of personality protects Biden. I find it ironic also, given the fact that none of this was consensual between Cuomo and these women, how quick the legislature and the authorities in New York were to go after Elliot Spitzer, who was involved in that prostitution scandal so many years ago with consenting women. They had an agenda to take him out, and it wasn't he did commit a crime. He was involved in prostitution, but the fact that people were so quick to want to get rid of him, and they're seeing right out in the open Cuomo, serial abuser, harasser here, and they're still defending him because he's got a big fat D behind his name. It's atrocious.
Yeah, and I think another thing that we have to just remind ourselves of as well is that we have to break zero tolerance, yes, but we have to break the ability for people to get away from this as long as they do, because Cuomo is a person that is doing this in a sea of people, doing this in a lineage of generations of people.
Society that
have
accepted
been doing this. Yeah, and I don't know. It's obviously disgusting. He should obviously resign. And I think another thing that I've said before on politics is you can kill 15,000 people in a nursing home, but don't have sex with people other than your wife in America.
Hey, look, if this gets him out, at least it gets him out. But yeah, I think that the greater crime, the larger crime, is the loss of life and resulted from the nursing home deaths that
Yeah.
he still will not step forward and be accountable or responsible for.
And no one will make him be accountable for that, because now I'll tell you this: if he went and sexually abused the woman in the nursing home, that might be a big story. But it's like I'm saying
double
it's
whammy.
like it's disgusting that like this is the thing. And it's like for every reason, you know, we're completely for this happening, but this is the thing that knocks him out, not using slave labor
or the deaths.
or the deaths or all the other things he's done. It's this. Also, CNN, how's it going?
Yeah, right.
This is also on you. I want to remind everyone that this will always be a connection. CNN will always be responsible to some degree for this because,
I would like to close by saluting all the women who stepped forward and are, putting him under the microscope, because if there's some way to get this guy out of there, and this is the way, at least some good will have come out of a horrible situation.
yeah.